Hello and welcome to the I Don't Have a Name for This podcast. This is officially episode 3, and if you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning listener, welcome back. Either way, thank you so much for your support and your listens. I honestly do this for myself, and I do it for you guys as well, because I feel that with sharing my story, my experiences, and my thoughts, I can help better someone. Or I shouldn't say better, I can just provide validation for someone, whoever is going through the same journey as me, or you found yourself once going through this journey, you can relate. And I think being able to relate to someone and knowing that you're not crazy and you're not alone is so validating. So that is what I hope to do with this podcast every episode, and I hope that I do achieve that. And with that, I will get started with today's episode. But before I do, how are you doing? No, for real, how are you really doing? I just want to give you a couple of seconds to hold space for wherever you are and whatever space you find yourself in. And I want to allow you a moment to feel that with no judgment and just straight feeling. There's not too often that we have time to feel. So, like I said, if I can do that in my podcast, give you a second or two to feel that and hold space for that, then I definitely want to do that. And I think I'm going to continue to incorporate the how are you doing sections in my podcast. And I hope you guys can hear it. Let me raise it a little bit. I have the sound bowl healing again because I really, really liked it in my last episode. So I figured I would keep it, and I got a lot of good feedback from it too. So that's always nice. And of course, we'll talk about the setup, because if you can see me, depending on where you're listening to this podcast, you'll see I have my incense burning. I got my energy right. I did a little meditation, and this week's episode is a little interesting. It's a little different because it is a deep, deep episode for me. And when the idea came to me that this has to be an episode on my podcast, I didn't realize how triggering it would be for not only my listeners but for me. So this is your official trigger warning. I will talk about some very traumatic things briefly. So I just want to warn you guys about that. If it's too heavy, I definitely understand. If you have to take a moment and step away from the podcast or click off this episode altogether, no hard feelings. But today, as you can tell by the title, we are talking about celibacy and dating. And it's so new to me. So definitely figuring it out as I'm going, just like everything else in this entire podcast. But it felt like the right time to talk about it. And at first, when I thought about it, I thought it wasn't an episode for now. And then I got confirmation that no, this episode is an episode you need to record now. So, and it's different in that because it was so traumatic and so deep for me, I definitely had to outline this one. Normally I speak from the heart, and I'm still speaking from the heart here, but I needed to make sure that I kept myself on track on this episode because, yes, you'll see why in a few. But with that being said, without further ado, is it ordo or ado? I don't know what it is, but without that, let's go ahead and get started. And I will start with a little story time. which I might have done before in my podcast. I'm thinking now, like, have I said any story times on here? Or it doesn't matter. So, story time. This podcast episode is actually inspired by recent current events in my life. I don't know why I'm making it so abstract. But your girl went on a date or whatever. I know, right? Ooh. I went on a date with this really nice gentleman, and it is from our interaction that this podcast became an episode. Because on that date with this guy, I have been celibate for 8 months now. And throughout those 8 months, my celibacy has not been challenged because I just haven't been putting myself out there. I was focused on school, focused on myself, and so my celibacy didn't have an opportunity to be challenged. And I don't think I really thought about it too much. I also did, to be fair, I didn't know that it would turn into like me like being on a date with this guy. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't think that, but I don't know. Dating is so far removed from me right now that, like, I don't know. It just didn't cross my mind that it was like a date. But anyways, my celibacy was challenged. And so at that moment, I had to choose to continue my celibacy or to not. And I chose to continue my celibacy, which I'm very proud of myself, because it is very easy to just break that. And no shade to anybody who has been in a celibacy journey and has, chosen to break their celibacy and then realize that, damn, I wish I didn't. That's cool too. Just for me, I knew that I didn't want to break it. Like, yeah, being, I guess, not sexually active can be frustrating and can be like challenging, especially when you actually like somebody, bro. Let me tell you something, because when you don't like nobody and you're minding your business, it is easy. But having a nice guy in front of your face, you're like, okay. But it wasn't as difficult as I'm making it to be right now. But in hindsight, I didn't understand the power of the decision that I made. And it wasn't until I meditated on it, and I had a really deep meditation session yesterday, and I was like, wow, this is way deeper than I even understood it to be. And so I was like, yeah, this has definitely got to be a podcast episode. So let's talk about celibacy, right? What is celibacy and what does it mean to be celibate? And I think that celibacy can be defined many different ways. I don't think there's any one way to define it other than abstaining from sex or sexual activities. And people choose to be celibate for many different reasons. And I thought that I knew why I was choosing to be celibate. And it turns out that subconsciously there was way deeper reasons for my celibacy. And so, like I said, there's no right or wrong way to be celibate. It's totally up to you to define what you want that journey to look like. What are you trying to gain from it? How long you want to do it for? And so on and so forth. So please do not take this podcast as me telling you how to live your life, because it's not that. If anything, it's me figuring out my own shit. So please do not. Okay, this is a very deep episode. So why I am choosing to be celibate, and I guess you can say at the surface level, it's because I am not really interested in dating right now. And I didn't know that I was done dating entirely for the time being, until my date with this gentleman, which made me realize that actually I don't want to date. But I know that for me, casual hooking up doesn't work because I'm a demisexual and a sapiosexual. I need deep intellectual connection, emotional bonding. Like, I need it all to want to sleep with somebody. I can't do the hookup culture, and it just doesn't work for me. So me knowing that, and knowing that I don't want to date right now or be in a relationship, it doesn't make sense for me to engage or try to engage in sexual relations that are going to be meaningless to me. And so to that point, being celibate, super easy, right? And then there's the aspect of just connecting deeper with myself, deepening my spiritual journey, deepening my soul's connection, and connecting with my higher self and what I'm on this earth to do. I think that being celibate will allow me to have that clarity and that focus on myself, which has been the case for the last 8 months. So to the idea of like splitting my time and dividing that with someone else, or trying to maintain a relationship, or trying to maintain a connection right now, just seems like too much for me. And so celibacy is easy. And then there's another reason. Another reason. Man, y'all know I'm deeper than the earth at this point. So if this is surprising to you, hey. But if it's not, then you probably already know that about me. But the third reason is because I'm wanting to experience intimacy on a deeper level, on a different level. One of the reasons why I need that emotional connection to even engage in sexual relations is because I require a level of intimacy to be sexually involved, right? And I think that sex is super intimate. It is, if not the most intimate thing you can do, but it is very intimate. Like when you think about the act of penetration, penetration pretty much. Yeah, like when you think about that, it's so hard for me. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but I don't. Just sharing bodies, skin to skin contact, the idea of that energetic exchange, that is so intimate to me. And so the idea of just having casual sex doesn't agree with who I am and like how I operate. I'm very emotionally aligned and tuned, and so I would be setting myself up. So realistically, I'm just being honest with myself when I say that I can't do it. And it took a while for me to get there because I thought that I could date and not be in a serious relationship, and I would get my feelings hurt quite often. So after a couple heartaches and heartbreaks, I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do the casual thing. It's not for me. And so now that I'm much older, it still makes so much sense for me. And honestly, I do believe and I do see sex as a spiritual exchange. It's a very energetic one, and some people do have like dark souls or dark energy around them, and to sleep with someone, you're getting in bed with whatever energy they have, whatever energy they embody, whatever energy they cultivate, and and grow. And so I rather abstain from that until I'm ready, until I find someone who I actually want to get involved with that deeply. But for right now, I don't even want to get involved, not even on a shallow level. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to date. I want to keep to myself. And that's something that I learned after my date, because and it's not just the fact of my celibacy being challenged, because I think that I will eventually be open to dating while maintaining my celibacy. But for right now, while I'm still figuring out the ins and the outs of being celibate and what does that mean for me and what I'm actually trying to gain out of the celibacy, I think it's best for me not to date. And speaking about the next topic, which is what I hope to gain from my celibacy journey, I hope to gain mental clarity, focus, a deeper connection with my spiritual being. And I hope to gain healing, which was a message that was so deep and loud and clear for me in my meditation. So after my date with this guy, the next day I was like, wow, how like badass of me to sit there and choose to stand in my ground. And he was very receptive and very respectful of it. So it wasn't like I had to fight to maintain my celibacy or like prove myself, or there wasn't any of that. It was just looking back on the fact that for me, it could have been very easy to walk away from that journey at that moment and indulge. I didn't. And so I was like, wow, you're so badass. You're so kick-ass. Like, let's meditate on this. And when I meditated, boy, so much came up for me. And I realized at that moment that while I thought I understood why I was choosing celibacy, my soul had a deeper reason for me choosing celibacy. And that was healing. And on this journey that I've been on for self-love and self-discovery, I feel my eyes getting watery. Choosing to be celibate is the greatest act of self-love that I can afford myself right now. And I say that because choosing to be celibate is choosing to have my power, to take my power back, my sexual power, my power in my sexuality, I should say. Because that was a power that was stripped from me at a very early age. Growing up at a very early age, and it went on for quite some time, I was sexually abused, and so that power over my sexuality was stripped from me before I even had a chance to have a choice. And I remember my teenage self feeling, after years of going through this, I remember at one time I just felt like my body wasn't mine. And yeah, there was a time that I was engaging in sexual activities just because. And I just didn't feel like my body belonged to me. It just it was something that was difficult for me to understand and comprehend at that age. And so now here at 28, choosing to be celibate, while it's because of dating burnout, and it's because I'm on this journey to discover myself, and I want to develop and cultivate intimate relationships in other ways and explore how to do so. It's also a reclamation period for me. It's me reclaiming my power. It is absolutely the greatest. I don't know if I don't know what I can do at this point that would be bigger than me choosing to be celibate. It is the absolute greatest act of self-love for me. And so at that moment, at the end of that date, yes, it was like, you stood your ground, you did a kick-ass thing, but baby Chris is so proud of me. Teenage Chris is so proud of me. High school Chris is so proud of me. Undergrad Chris is so proud of me. And so that is what I hope to gain with this celibacy journey, is this deeper level of healing that I wasn't even aware that my soul was seeking. It kind of just came to me like an idea, like, you know what, let's just be celibate. And I didn't think too much about it. I'm like, you know what, I've never considered anything like this. It sounds very foreign to me, very abstract, very far, but it was very real this weekend on that date. And I'm so proud of myself. And with that being said, I have decided to not date because I want to at least allow myself to finish exploring what that means for me, and any other messages that I need to, any other healing that needs to come to me. I need to have the clarity and the mental focus. Oh my God, the churros guy. I don't know if you guys heard that, but the churros guy scared me. There's a churros guy that comes every week to my complex, and he blows that whistle and he says churros, and honestly, it's culture to me now. So I want to wrap up this podcast episode with this quote that I thought was so perfect for this week, because I always like to leave you guys with something to take away outside of my knowledge and my storytelling and whatever else is the reason that brings you to this podcast. I do always want you guys to have a takeaway, and so since I'm so new to the celibacy journey, I don't have too much to say in regards to being celibate, but what I will say is this quote really did hit home for me because it was just so perfect. So let me read it to you. It says, "The soul always knows what to do to heal itself." That is so freaking true. That is so deep. That is so true. That is like literally like it sums up my choice and my reasoning and me being here right now on this celibacy journey. It sums it up so perfectly, because I couldn't tell you, like, at first when I first had the idea to be celibate, I was just like, all right, but we're gonna abstain from sex. Why not? I don't want to date. Makes sense. I don't like casual hookups. Don't want to date. It makes sense to be celibate. That was my initial thought. And then I thought about it some more, and then I was like, you know what? I want deeper intimacy. And then I thought about it some more, and then I'm like, you know what? Actually, there's so many layers of healing that's about to come from this celibacy journey. And so here we are. And I guess that was my soul's way of telling me what it needed right now. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up, give me a review, 5 stars, whatever you're thinking about this podcast, let me know. I always welcome your feedback, and let me know what you want to hear next or see more on this podcast. And I will see you in the next one.